So by definition, e-commerce is going to grow faster, but that's not what's really important today. What's important today from our perspective, and we're going to be a little different than what everybody else has talked about, is why is it different? Why are the growth rates different? What does it mean for retail? And how you should think about retail from the human experience. You read these headlines and you fundamentally think that it's the end of the world as we know it because people are no longer walking into stores. And then you cross the street and you see people staring in windows. You talk to people and you see them basically still saying, I want to feel the product. People talk about the importance still of the joy of shopping in many cases. And the reality is those are all human experiences. It doesn't mean that e-commerce is not going to be part and parcel of every one of your lives as you begin to build your careers out there. But it does mean that the world should be viewed differently when we think about how we market to people and how basically people who have products have to address issues. When we talk about digital in today's world, if you're McCann, our 20,000 people around the world, we talk about digital offering us a screen. Everybody had a different view today about what digital means. To me, what digital means is a screen by which I can show wares. When I think about a store, and we heard Gensler earlier today, or Chase, who's actually in the room today. When they talk about it, they're talking about the store being a stage. They're both an opportunity to tell a story. And when you are talking to customers out there, the reality is you're telling a story. That's how we look at the world. McCann was founded over 100 years ago on a premise of truth. But truth was always about telling the story in a way that made people like a product, like a brand, more than they would have liked it if we hadn't told the story. Because in a commodity-driven world, which is what we live in today, where all phones work and make phone calls, but one is perceived to be cool, and one is perceived to be bling, and one is perceived to be work-like, it's people who tell stories that basically give those accoutrements that make consumers then flock to stores or go online to buy them. We think that all retail brands, whatever they are, have to stand for something identifiable, something above and beyond whether the primary service is physical or digital. In essence, when we created Fearless Girl for State Street, Fearless Girl was all about finding a meaningful role that drove and organized everything that State Street, with their She Fund, was trying to do. And I suspect everybody here is aware of Fearless Girl from the perspective of what it meant about women, what it meant about women's opportunities. It became the most talked about campaign in the world, and that little statue is now traveling around the world. It's in Europe today, it's on its way to Asia, we're hoping to get it to Latin America. But at the end of the day, it was figuring out the meaningful role for State Street's She Fund, a fund that invested in companies more likely to have women at senior positions, both on the board and in managerial roles. A way of basically making brokers know about their fund. It was a statue. So when you think about commerce, we don't care what it is. We think it's all about telling a story. It tells a consumer, if you do it right, what a meaningful role is, exactly why they come to the seller and what they can expect. Let me give you a sense about one particular product as an example of that. Some of you may know Aldi, small chain here in the United States, very big in the United Kingdom, a discount sales operation. Founded by a family in Germany, the brothers had a basic belief that they could basically sell access to fresh, healthy, good quality food, and they always said it should be a right, not a privilege. Now, they were really just discounters in many ways, but they had a belief that discount didn't have to mean just lower price. It could mean quality, it could mean value. And so let me show you how we developed that story and why they've been the fastest growing discounter and one of the fastest growing supermarkets in the UK.
I buy this tea for my husband. He likes tea. He also likes this one. Tea. I like gin.
UK consumers understand from this what it means to go in, that products can have value. And to explain how we came up with those ideas, since as I told you, I threw out my speech, the person who really understands why these ideas have come to fruition is Suzanne Powers, who I'm going to turn this over to, and then I'm going to come back a little bit after she speaks.
Okay, see, over to me. Hello, everybody. It's that afternoon moment, isn't it? You caffeinated, though? You had some ice cream, I think? Some treats? Okay. I'm going to take you through a whole bunch of stuff, so hold on to your hats. I want to just spend a moment and explain how we know the things that we know, because as Harris said, our entire job is to help the brands we work on, whether it's Coca-Cola, whether it's Nestle, whether it's GM, find a meaningful role that they can play in people's lives. And one of the ways that we understand how to do that is we actually have a treasure trove of research. So I'm the nerd of the organization. I'm going to take you through some of that. Before I do, I want to explain our approach to that. We have a group called Truth Central. Truth Central hunts for those macro-level truths that impact any brand we work on, because they start with the human being. And they look for what drives humans today. What are their attitudes? What are their beliefs? What's their behaviors? What are the things that actually make them make different decisions about brands they're buying, products they're using, services, stores they're going to? And this can be anything from, we do big pieces around truth about beauty. How is that changing? Truth about even ourselves, advertising. Truth about youth. Truth about age. And ageism, frankly, comes up in that study quite a bit. So this is a whole treasure trove of data for us. In fact, we're 7 years in, we got about 25 million data points. So it enables us to really investigate things in very different ways. We did a study, first time was 2013, second time was 2015. It was called Truth About Shopping. And we were really hunting for, again, those macro level truths that help people understand shopping behavior. What are the attitudes? What do people believe? What drives them to a store? What happens when they're there? We just did it again in 2018. And the thing that's come out from this study now is it's not enough for us to talk about shopping. In fact, it's an entire ecosystem of commerce. And I think we've heard about that today. All the different levers of commerce that actually are impacted by people's decisions, but also impact your business if you're sitting here in this room and you're trying to decode that. But for us at the end of the day, regardless if it's shopping and that behavior or the world of commerce, it's all driven by the human being. And that's the lens that we put on every single thing that we do, so that we can decode that and unpack it for our clients and help them really navigate that stuff. So 2018's version of research, lots of markets, about 30,000 people, and this is the quantitative side of the research. The other thing that we did as an organization is we believed in this area so much that we unleashed our entire employee population. So that's about 100 countries, believe it or not, that we put people on the streets. Even Harris did some interviews, by the way. We had to pull him off the street because he kept talking to him. But we did a ton of interviews all over the world, and we just all did what we call truth hunting. We went to bodegas, we went to big boxes, we went to malls, and we even went into people's homes and really understood what it is that they're doing, how they're shopping, why are they buying what they're buying, and their attitudes around that. And that's been an incredibly powerful qualitative layer to the research I'm going to show you. So when I have some data, some of it might be verbatim, some of it might be quantitative in nature. But before I jump into it, this is audience participation time, because you don't just get to sit there and take it in. We're going to do a quick quiz, all right? By a show of hands, I just gave you the answer. Hopefully you didn't see it. By a show of hands, you can't cheat. In what country are people most likely to say they consider themselves to be a shopaholic? US, raise your hand, even though you saw the answer. Brazil, India, yeah, winners, China. Okay, so it is India, which is very interesting. We're going to unpack that a little bit. Next quiz. Now you can't cheat on this one. Thinking about what the world will be like from 10 years from now, which below are people most likely to say won't exist in most places? Show of hands for plastic bags. Show of hands for malls in this audience. Show of hands for cashiers. And show of hands for internet cafes. Pretty equal with the exception of internet cafes. So that's kind of interesting. The answer is plastic bags, which just again goes to show the apocalypse is probably not an apocalypse. It's actually more of a shakeout and an evolution, and we have to figure out exactly what that means. The bottom line from all of our research, and again, I'll show you a little bit more behind the scenes around this, is the fundamentals still exist. And no matter what market we're in, globally, consumers tell us over and over again that they still want these things that we have all known to be true since the beginning of time. They want the joy of discovery. They want the pleasure of great customer service. They want the satisfaction of convenience, the things that are evergreen within this area of retail. It's the way they experience them that is different. And that's what we're going to go into as we go through the various chapters. There are so many truths I could bring to you today. We brought five kind of areas of investigation that I think will be interesting to you as a group. We're going to talk about the emotional landscape of shopping. We're going to talk about privacy, because privacy has a big impact on how people behave and what they do. We're going to talk about a new ecosystem of influence. We're going to talk about shopkeepers in a little bit of a different way. And then finally, we're going to talk about, as Harris mentioned, creating those really meaningful retail relationships. Not just experiences, but relationships on a deeper level. All right, let's dive into the emotional landscape of shopping. Or, as I sometimes like to call it, has shopping gotten sad? And this is a very interesting piece that the researchers came back with that I thought was fascinating. I said, what do you mean has shopping gotten sad? And I'm going to show you what we mean by that, but let's go back. Shopping is a fundamental human truth. It's a human act since the beginning of time, right? In fact, if you look all over the world, and we're always hunting for these evergreen truths that are true in every market, every child grows up playing shopkeeper. And that is how they figure out how to have relationships with other humans, what the system is that we all live in, whether that's a barter system or whether that's a trade-off. But everybody has done this for generations and generations. That's not going away. And in fact, what we see is 6 in 10 people say that companies that focus on people are the future of shopping. So that's pretty good news. We still have humans at the core of this thing. So the truth that we would say from this area of the emotional landscape of shopping is that shopping can still bring that tremendous joy, and I know we've touched on that a little bit today, but it's just brought to life on completely new terms. Because suddenly it can feel a lot more functional. Look at the different ways that we procure goods, and I'm using those words very specifically because that's quite... we also have this information that came true, a little bit higher with our younger generation. 1 in 2 people globally say if they could use a subscription service to buy everything, they would. So that gets to that functionality. And it's also become a lot more integrated. In 2013, when we did the research, we would hear people use language like, you know what, shopping, I'm going shopping. It's an intentional thing I'm about to do. 2015, we heard this, actually, I'm always shopping. Because we started to see some integration between, again, offline and online experiences. 2018, it's, ooh, did I just buy something? Which is very interesting, right? And a little bit of that is driven by voice, and people actually not quite realizing what they've done in many cases. So that tells us a lot. And to answer the question, did shopping get sad? It can be a bit of a lonely endeavor, right? 57% of people believe it's too impersonal. 53% think that it used to be more fun. 46% said that online shopping is a lonely experience. So again, when the researchers came back and said, is it a sad thing? You know, I'm the optimist. In fact, my nickname at work is Susie Sunshine. And I said to them, but the other half of the population doesn't believe this. And that's an important piece for us to unpack and understand.